Bu oturum için sponsorlukları nedeniyle Barisol ve Osram'a çok teşekkür ediyorum ben. Buyurun lütfen.
I wonder if I should speak in English or Turkish. It feels a little bit weird to speak to English to a general Turkish public, but
speak in your language, in
then
Turkish,
they're gonna translate
and we
to you. Okay, let's
step in, okay?
Merhabalar, kusura bakmayın biraz kaba bir şekilde oturuyorum ama ufak bir afacanlıktan dolayı baskette ön çapraz bağlarımı kopardığım için ameliyat öncesi son günlerimi yaşıyorum. Bugün Human Centric Lighting, insan odaklı aydınlatma ile ilgili bir panel olacak. Ancak ben bu konuyla ilgili panele geçmek için bazı öz bilgilerin paylaşılması gerektiğini düşünüyorum. Bu anlamda da biraz panelle sunum arası bir format yarattık diğer konuşmacılarla beraber. Size öncelikle ufak da olsa bir insan olarak da aydınlatmayı konuşabilmek için bir alt bilgi paylaşımında bulunacağım ve sonra biraz konuşmacıları devreye sokarak umut ediyorum bilgilendiğiniz bir konuşma olacak. Bunu mümkün olan ya da parçası olduğum her şeyde, her konumda ve durumda paylaşıyorum. Gökyüzünün neden mavi olduğunu bilmeden esasında dünyayı, hayatı, evrimi anlamamız çok mümkün değil. Hele de aydınlatma ile ilgili konuşmamız bile mümkün değil. Çünkü gökyüzünün neden mavi olduğu olgusu ışıkla ilgili bilgimizi netleştiren, bugün vücudumuzun yapısını, evrimi anlamamızı sağlayacak şey. Işık esasında bir yerden bir yere hareket eden elektromanyetik bir radyasyon. Hem dalga hem de parçacık özelliği gösteriyor. Newton'un prizmasında bize gösterdiği gibi beyaz ışık bir farklı bir ortama girdiğinde farklı dalga boylarına ayrılıyor ve biz de o dalga boylarını da renkler olarak algılıyoruz. Işık esasında bizim gözümüzün gördüğü çok ufak görülebilir spektrum dışında çok farklı dalga boylarında da esasında hayatımızda var. Sadece biz onlara görülebilir ışık muamelesi yapmıyoruz. Mikrodalga, radyo, gama, X-ray ışınları gibi. Bizim gözümüz evrimin getirdiği bir şey. Ancak 380 ve 780 nanometre aralığındaki dalga boyunu, görülebilir spektrumu görüyor. Ve bu dalga boyunun farklı alanları da farklı renkleri ifade ediyor. Doğada da ve gözümüz de tamamen buna göre evrimleşmiş durumda. Esasında gökyüzü olmasaydı, gökyüzüne yani yukarı baktığınızda göreceğiniz şey çok soğuk bir ışık kaynağıydı. Yani güneşe eğer gökyüzü atmosfer olmadan baksaydık çok soğuk bir beyaz ışık kaynağıyla karşılaşacaktık. Bu ışık kaynağı ki güneşten 8,2 dakika içerisinde dünyaya ulaşıyor. Gökyüzüne girdiğinde gökyüzünün yapısından dolayı aynı ışığın suya girdiğinde hareketinin değişmesi gibi farklı dalga boyları, ışığın içerisindeki farklı dalga boyları farklı hareket ediyor. Bu işte siz gözlemci olduğunuzda saat 12 gibi konuşalım. Gün ışığı gökyüzüne girdiğinde düşük dalga boyları, yüksek enerjili maviler kırılır, saçılırken buna da Rayleigh saçılması deniyor. Bunu bulan fizikçiden dolayı. Yüksek dalga boyuna sahip, yani düşük enerjili kırmızılarsa kırılmadan geçiyor. Böylece siz gözlemci olarak gökyüzüne baktığınızda o kadar çok mavi dalga boyu gözünüze ulaşıyor ki gökyüzünü mavi zannediyorsunuz. Gökyüzünün bir rengi yok. Sadece o anda gözünüze ulaşan dalga boylarının ağırlığı gökyüzünün rengini oluşturuyor. Aynı şekilde akşamüstü niye tan ağrısı gökyüzü kızıllaşır? Aynı doğa olayı, maviler hala saçılmaya devam ederken, kırmızılar hala gözümüze direkt ulaştığı için artık gözümüze ulaşan ışığın mavi proporsiyonu kırmızıya göre çok azaldığı için gökyüzünü yavaş yavaş tan ağrısı şeklinde görmeye başlıyoruz. İşte bu yüzden de gün içerisinde sürekli olarak esasında güneş bize farklı renk sıcaklıkları, soğuk beyaz ve sıcak beyaz arasında değişerek ulaşıyor. Aydınlatma sektöründe birçok bilinen yanlış gibi doğru zannedilen gün ışığı 3000 Kelvin değil. 3000 Kelvin gün ışığının 1 T anındaki renk sıcaklığı. İşte bu döngü, yani 1 milyon yıldır diyelim Homo sapien ve yani bizim gibi primatlar için 1 milyon yıllık evrim sürecinde 12 saat boyunca böyle bir ışığa, 12 saat boyunca da aya maruz kalmış vücudumuz bu şekilde evrimleşmiş. Yani gün içerisinde değişen renk sıcaklığı, daha aktif olduğunuz bir öğlen öncesiyle daha sakinleştiğiniz bir akşamüstü ve akşam hiçbir şekilde ışığa maruz kalmadığınız bir ortam. Buradaki, pardon, sorry, I will come back to you. And I will go to English from now on. The story is, as we know this is our nature. What we have been experiencing since the invent of the artificial light for the 100 years is not obviously natural. It's not natural to sit in an office for 12 hours with the same lux level and color temperature, that's for sure. And with the invent of LED and the passage to LED, now we have the capability of dynamic light. The only problem is, as we are using, or the lighting industry, and unfortunately using this human-centric lighting term as a marketing approach, and tries to simplify it as human-centric lighting equal to tunable white, which is totally wrong. This is what we will be trying to explain this to you, and I will leave this subject with you.
Thank you.
Human-centric lighting, is it only about tunable white, or?
Not at all, because we also speak here about the wide spectrum. Finally, I have to say I don't like the wording human-centric lighting. For me personally, it's biodynamic lighting. We have on one side the visual effects, so that means we have the intensity of light, we have the image, we have a contrast, the perception, and the motion. It's a sense of us. We see, we hear, we feel, we touch. On the other side, we also have the biological effects. Means our classical hormones, melatonin. That means the bluish in the light makes us more wake up. On the other side, also one of the biological effects is concentration. Yeah? Keep in mind, you are in the office, you have a light which is more, yellowish. It makes you a bit, feeling in a good mood, but tired. Yeah? And we have our inner clock. Some of us, they are morning people, they wake up in the morning and they are ready to work. Some are the night owls, yeah? They prefer to work during the night, yeah, in the evening. And don't forget the psychological effects, a well-being, the mood, the relax, what we have and what we want to reach with a good light source. Yeah, when somebody asks me, what do you think, what's close to sunlight? I have to say, it's the traditional old good bulb. It was the closest spectrum of light compared to our sunlight. But it changed. Nowadays, we got the LED. The LED is on a blue chip with phosphor. And everybody talked about the lumen package, lumen per watt. Yeah?
Efficiency.
Efficiency. But we forgot to keep in mind the quality of light. And now we turn into the future and we have the digitalization, connecting light. Nobody of us wants to turn on the light and switch on and off. People connect light with their iPhone, their smart tablets. Yeah? So this is the trend and this is our future. And I see it personally really important that we as humans can customize our own light. Because me, for example, I don't like 6,500 Kelvin a lot. Yeah? It makes me not waking up. Yeah? I prefer to step on the 4,000 Kelvin. Yeah? But a person next to me in the office prefers perhaps lighting source with 6,500 Kelvin. So it's individual and it
And
should
cultural.
be customized.
Cultural also,
Yeah,
like in
yeah.
some culture, like I was in Iran last year, they use warm and cold color temperatures together,
Yeah.
which was quite surprising. Or if you go to Middle East, as the weather is already too hot, they like to have cold color temperature to feel a little bit chilly, you
Yeah.
know, rather than having warm light. Or if you go to Northern Europe, then
Yeah.
suddenly warm light is an obligation because they are already freezing anyway. So it's really a lot to do with the culture also, I guess. So, but we are like spending 90% of our time indoors. So there should be a way to, you know, deal with this.
Yeah, we spent 90% indoor, and you also have to keep in mind, yeah, years before we had not that kind of advertising. Yeah, now you go outside. I went through Istanbul yesterday. You have everywhere these big screens. Yeah, everywhere lighting, lighting, lighting. So you don't have this darkness anymore. Yeah, in the big cities.
You cannot stop the light.
You cannot stop the light.
It becomes like a 24/7 lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then maybe we should talk about light pollution, which is not the subject today,
Yeah.
but it's also like a,
But even at home, you go at home and you have your TV and a flat screen, and it's also indirect light to us. With
which
a
is
lot
rich
of
blue
lux.
also.
Yeah, and bluish.
But if we are talking about spending time, 90% of our time indoor, especially, I guess today is more about the office lighting, which is kind of the focus for the human-centric lighting in general. We're still living in a society with rules and regulations, thinking about the traditional light source. What do you think about what we have as rules right now in office lighting, and how do you see?
Before speak of level of light, we have to understand well how our eye do. Our eye do something very well and something very bad. The most badly thing is the crystalline defeat. In fact, I have glasses. Many people here have glasses. For defeat of crystalline means to focus. So is myopia or hypermetropy. Then there is another defeat of the eye, important, is the cornea, is that give astigmatism. Then there are other defeats like to control the glare, to correct the, the contrast, the daltonism. The daltonism, there is no care for daltonism. The only thing that our eye do very well is the adaptation of light with iris. Iris is like a diaphragm, and for this reason we can read a book on a shore, 21 of June at noon with a clear sky, that is about 150,000 lux. We can read the same book in our sleeping room with a little lamp like that on the table. That is about 20 lux. With 20 lux we can read very well. So it's 6,000 less. The adaptation of light is a thing that is the most, is the better thing that our eye do. These are European standard, and the European standard, we can see the next image, they remarks 4 elements. Illuminance medium, AM, lux, quantity of light, or illuminance. The glare effect, UGR, UO, uniformity, RA, color rendering. you see, the difference between 500 and 750 is invisible, is nothing. And also, if we can go to see uniformity. I put a table.
Okay.
We can see a table with two lux meter. We see about the same light on the table. If we made a zoom, the left lux meter is about 150 lux. The other, on the right, we can see the other, is more than 200. But we can see the difference. So uniformity is another stupid thing, but it's a rule, it's law for us.
But the rules sorry to cut, but the rules goes with the lux level and uniformity. And you say it only brings us to a level of dull office areas where there's no contrast really.
Yes. Allora, uniformity is a very stupid rule because uniformity is synonymous of monotony. A monotony is not a comfort, it's the contrary of comfort. My old friend is dead, Marco Zanuso, Italian architect, said always, the best light that I can see is the light of a forest. I have an image.
Later on. Yeah.
It's later on, but yeah, that will be a little bit. We can go
There is no, yeah.
there. Okay.
Ecco, you see the light of forest is fantastic. It's exactly the contrary of the rules, of the European rules. We are here in Istanbul. Another fantastic light is next Sultanahmet Cami. It's fantastic. It's the contrary of the rule. So, criticize the rule is our right, because we have the right to criticize stupid rule. But also, we are obliged to observe the law.
But if you're going to give as a shortcut, I will take you back.
Yes.
Please. So you say there's a critic for the rules of CIE because it's only taking into consideration of really quantify values like lux level, uniformity, which puts that in a position where you can only have less contrast and more dull, areas. But if we take this in the way of seeing, okay, we have a rule to criticize, but now we have a lot of opportunities that we can work with. So I guess if we take this criticization and make a better meaning of the human-centric lighting, as you have written, advanced human-centric lighting. I don't want to create another hype word, but
You see, this lady is very happy because it's near the window.
Daylight.
In a big open space, people want go to near the window, not in the center of the open space, because near the windows there is the light is change, and it's not uniform.
and there are other qualities that we can look into, I guess, right?
Yeah, I always say you have to take into account that you have a symbiosis of light and the lifestyle. Yeah? So human-centric lighting does not only mean the light. If you have a room, you need a very nice climate. You need a good acoustic. I did very good development and researches together with Barisol for light ceiling. Yeah? So you can integrate light behind a nice stretch material, yeah, to reach a very nice uniformity and very nice room. And you can also keep into account that you have a nice acoustic. You don't see the light because it's behind a stretch material, yeah, but you feel you are somewhere outside. This is something you can do. But what you also need to not to forget is a well-being focus. I can have the best light, but if I don't have the right design, I don't feel good in my office. Yeah? And I need a good quality of light. Okay, there are some employees that can sit next to the window, yeah? But there are also some that sit in the back. So how can they ensure that they have also a nice light? You can create light walls, that's a possibility. You can have your individual luminaire at the desk to create your personal light. And it's also important to have a light management system to control it. So we named this a smart lighting system. And we also did researches and found out a nice model for these smart buildings. I name it the 330-300 model. So if you take an office, it costs you €3 per square meter for the energy cost. That's 1% of the total cost. You pay €30 per square meter to rent a space. And you pay €300 roughly for your employers, for the office. So it's really important that your employees feel comfortable in your office because they need to give the best performance to achieve their goals. So it's a very good argument to invest in good lighting, in good design, and a good room concept.
All together.
All together, yeah.
And Piero, after the critique of the rules, we were talking about your shortcut for the architects within this, attendees who are there, who is thinking about, okay, it's more than tunable white, but what can be done in an office in a,
So,
shortcut?
yes.
Art
This
Emre.
means with task lighting, we can solve the problem. We can criticize the law and observe the law. But in this way, we do a very service to human being because they can have the light that they want.
But you have a general lighting, which is like
Yes, there is a
indirect, and then
indirect.
people can customize it.
Yes.
Personalized.
A general level of 200 lux, for instance, and then they can have also 3,000 lux if they want on the table. If they want to have less light, they switch off the task lighting. So my suggestion is criticize is our not only right but duty. I give your colleague architect, in your project you must be Brett. In Turkish, veletler olmak. This is very important, always.
Criticize the rules and come up with creative solutions.
Respect and criticize.
I mean,
This
you
is
have
the
to-
solution.
I mean, you need to reach the 500 lux, yes, but also the 200 lux into the eyes. And if you design a luminaire concept or a lighting concept in a room with 500 lux, and you have on the side wall windows, yeah? You have more than 500 lux, but people often forget to dim down the light. You go to offices, it's fully bright. You have light here, you have light there, light in the screen, light from the side. And then I ask myself, is this the regulation? Yeah? That's much more than the 500 lux. Yeah? So we waste light.
So if we take it to this approach, like personalization, today I guess it's one of the best times to do that because we have this additional organ of ours, which is mobile phone. And these things can do stuff, right? So it can be integrated in the lighting management system, I guess. There, I leave you the word.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you can nowadays control the light, yeah? So either with your watch, either with a smart tablet, with a smartphone, you can control the light. You will see also here, for example, we designed and retrofitted your famous luminaire. Yeah?
So is it your design?
It's Piero's
My
design.
Okay.
Yes.
Made with the LED and the Barisol.
What were you using before LEDs? What was inside as a light source before LEDs?
There was no, it's new.
Ah, it's new. Okay. I thought,
Yeah.
when
It's
she
2 years
said
ago.
retrofitted,
Yeah.
I thought.
We tested it before with a bulb.
Okay.
Yeah? And then we retrofitted it with a Osram Flex in tunable white and with the stretch material of Barisol. And what you can do now is you can make sense with it. So you can control it with your iPhone, let me say, or any smart tablet, warm white, cold white, whatever you like. And then it's a personal luminaire. The same you can do in the office as well as home. Yeah? And you can create any scenes you want. And I also want to keep in mind, don't mix up the tunable white with human-centric. Also RGB, so red, green, blue, and white is human-centric lighting because you need the full spectrum of the sunlight.
What we are always trying with the artificial lighting at the end of the day is just to have a glimpse of what we have with daylight, which is still far away from being a reality, but we are getting close. So, like changing the color temperature, even changing the intensity is, of course, there are psychological effects on us, but if we're really talking about something where the center is human, then personalization looks like a good way to start. Let's put it this way. And on that level, there are other products where we can use it. Especially, I know the jet lag issue with
Glasses,
especially with sports people.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah, we did test because this is also a part of human-centric lighting. You know, there are jet lags. You live on the West Coast and you have a game on the East Coast and you're a basketball player. You have that jet lag, yeah? And what we did is we created classes together with doctors and medical research, and you put on and you get a kind of light shower. Because the melatonin, yeah, with the bluish light, makes you waking up, gives you more concentration. And the same we did also with our skiing team in Germany. That's why the Germans are so good in skiing. Yeah. Also, a possibility is to activate. Yeah? Why not using lighting sources in furnitures? Make your own design, create it within furnitures. This is just an example. It's what we did for an office. But you can put it in any kind of furnitures. Yeah? That's a possibility. And also a new design we did in our office is this luminaire here above, where you can create scenes like you have the feeling you are outside in the nature. So it can be someone, he loves to sit next to the beach. That motivates him, that gives him a good feeling, that gives him a strength and a performance. So he can regulate that it has the feeling, the luminaire has the same light like he's sitting next to the beach or in any nature. So like the forest example from Piero.
Well, of course, we are connected to nature, and in our genes that this is the same effect seeing when you are in a forest, you will feel better. When you see daylight, you will feel better.
Yeah.
Because in some way, we are obviously connected to the nature. And this really makes us feel better. But, I mean, these technologies and, neuro projects that I'm all with it, personalization. But we have to remember, right, the daylight is kind of the best light source ever. So
Absolutely.
we should take into consideration, and whenever we can, daylight should be included in the design process. Artificial light is only there when there is no other possibilities of having daylight, right?
I appreciate that you speak of daylight and not natural light and artificial light, because the two terms, natural, artificial, is a nonsense. because all is natural and all is artificial. If I speak of a bird net, is artificial or natural? You can solve the problem. A big case for bees, for instance, where the bees is like a condominium, it's like a big skyscraper. We are part of nature, and the thing that we do is natural.
Anything.
Artificial, I don't use this word because it's so in fact, I say daylight and electrical light.
Okay.
This is more, because we can do fantastic things with not the daylight, without daylight. You are agree with me?
Yes, it's just, I guess, this whole thing of human-centric, if we take it out of the context of the marketing, everything is for human. Buildings, lighting. It wasn't before the marketing people came up with human-centric. People were designing lighting for, not the building, of course it was always human. And this human connection with the nature is kind of all our effort to make it a look-like, you know, in a way. So as long as we keep that connection at some level, there's always will be a way to compensate these changes in our nature, I guess.
I would always recommend really to include daylight as best as possible. That can be also, we had nice projects with Novo Nordisk, I can later on also show pictures, where you create, let me say, you break walls. You break walls, yeah, to get light into the room. Yeah, that can, so you use the daylight from a light ceiling, and where you don't have the daylight from a light ceiling, you can have an artificial light ceiling. Yeah? But if you don't have the windows above, but you have a roof and you're able to get daylight into, and you can break somehow the wall and create reflections with a mirror material or something like that, you get into always light. Also the walls can be a reflection, white or any carpet or whatever. Yeah? So this, take daylight into your room concepts a lot. If you use artificial light, keep in mind that you try to dim down when you don't need it.
Or
yeah?
personalize.
Yeah, or personalize. Don't waste the light. Yeah, it's you can save energy costs, and we have to think about our environment too. Yeah.
So if we have a final wording from you, what would be your last words?
No, the final scope of the light is to be good for the man, for human. If I speak of my lamps that I see, it's not important for the shape of the lamp, but for the light that give. For instance, this light gives no shadow. You see? There is no shadow because it's very big. Doesn't give shadow. Because I made this project for the big meeting table, and people, the problem is to control the shape of the books, paper, and bottle, and like this. So our project must be concentrated always to human being.
There's no
Visual
shortcut.
task.
Yes, we should think about the light, and the lighting should be designed. Let's put it.
And
Yes.
controlled.
Okay. Design, personalization, and control.
Yeah.
Also, one last advice from the moderator, and if you have a chance, go out at 12 o'clock in the day, under the sunlight for half an hour of walk, then you can,
You get
schedule
vitamin D.
vitamin
you don't need
D,
to take the pills.
plus you can, regulate your circadian rhythm, which is also an easy solution. But a lot of things can be done. I guess I always try to give that message at the end of the day. The lighting should be designed, and there should be a professional within the team who is a lighting designer who will think about these new technologies, possibilities, psychology and philosophy, whatever. Somebody should give a thing about light and put this as an added value for humans to feel productive, if you like, or better, or at least experience the space in a better way. I guess you would agree. So we can take questions if you have. Elif? Not a hard one, please.
Thank you for your talks. I would like to ask your opinion about the well standards. The new standard for well-being inside indoor places. What do you think about it? It could be the future instead of other European norm standards?
Standards are made by people that doesn't do the project. So they are this is real abstract, artificial. This is artificial, negative term, abstract. But we have this and we have to follow. But we can, with our brain, control this. And for example, in the office with task lighting, I demonstrate we can do a well thing for man, for human, and follow the law. We have in Italy overall other stupid, the light pollution, the light to the sky. There is nothing. It's complete. If you think to plenty moon, plenty moon is the more is the element is more strong that every lamps that is go. You can see the star when there is the plenty moon. So is a and we have this law. So we have to give light only toward the ground and always this rule can. In this case, sometimes it's not here. The place I have not element to demonstrate, but we can also do the same thing with we made in the office. We can.
So you can follow the well standard with the what you have been suggesting, right?
Yes.
Mood lighting.
I guess about the
Well-being.
well building and well standards. One thing that we should understand about this concept is that the science did not finish their job. We don't know exactly what is good for our health if we take artificial lighting as an only light source. Well building is only focusing on the melanopic ratio and melanopic lux, which is only efficient or working over 480 nanometers. And there's another approach coming from the Lighting Research Center from New York, which says it's not only melatonin or the melanopic ratio, it's also about the other part of the whole spectrum is also efficient, just as blue part of the deal. Of course, blue does the big thing, but I mean, these two ideas are still fighting against. I don't know who's going to win. So if you take only well approach and only think about 480 nanometers, take melanopic ratio and multiply it with the lux level and you reach out a melanopic lux, I don't think this is the right approach. Lighting Research Center is offering something else, which is circadian stimulus and circadian lux, but they take into consideration of the blue, red and the green also. And they even suggest what you can do basically in the morning, have a lot of blue and more than 500 lux at least to be able to regulate your circadian rhythm. And at the end of the day, a lot of red, again more than 500 lux, just to regulate. Or you can do what I said and go out at 12 o'clock. But these two approaches, I don't think there is enough evidence that one of each should be chosen. The discussion is still going on, that's how I take it. And we need to still think about it, the health effect I'm talking about. But the psychology is there. We don't want to sit in places where the color temperature is still the same for the entire day. Yes. Personalization, yes. But the relationship with, if you go further with breast cancer and the health, light, there are a lot of things to be considered, and there are a lot of things still not defined clearly by the science. That's how I see it.
I want to join one thing to the question that posed the lady. Some rule is very well. For instance, the rule for art elements, painting, drawing, because in this case, the quantity of light may be very dangerous to change. So in this case, the control of infrared, ultraviolet, and the quantity of light is correct. But only in this case. For the man is another thing.
Thank you. I have a question from the practice. When we try to design like comfortable spaces for the offices, for the residential houses or the education spaces, we try to, when we do the ceiling design or the lighting design, like I'm an architect and I'm not a lighting specialist. So I go online and check the list. So when you talk about lighting, you basically talked about lux. So it is the quantity of light.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So what matters most? Because there are many lists online for the temperature of light, in Kelvin, and there is the lumen, so the efficiency, I believe, of light. So to design comfortable spaces, what matters most? Is the quantity of light, is the temperature of light, or the efficiency of light?
Who you are asking to? All of
to
us.
Anybody.
Okay. Would you like to answer?
No, you.
Me? Okay. But as a moderator, I talked already too much. Well, you should work with a lighting designer. That is not easy task to do. That is not easy to have a shortcut. There is no way. To be able to understand what is lumen, lux level, color temperature, how you're going to have it on a space, you need a specialist. You need someone who understands it. You should not go online to take any list as granted. Then you can, which is being done, but then you have similar spaces one another. The one thing that I know for sure, I'm not a lighting designer, but I call myself lighting design advocate. I believe in this profession by heart, is that you can have the same space totally differently by two different lighting approach. And the fact that nobody really cares, or cares, not, I don't want to say nobody, but doesn't care enough, let's say. The fact that you can pay attention on the furniture that you choose, all the materials that you choose, the biggest impact that you can have on a space, I'm talking about the perception and the experience of the space with the user, is through light. Because our eyes is getting information, like more than 70% of the information that we receive is through light and through our eyes. And the only way to do it, I'm not saying right or wrong, just to have a comfortable or whatever the user needs to experience in that space is through light. And if there's no specialist in this project who will understand this part of the story, technology, health, psychology, culture, there are a lot of elements that needs to be taken care of when you design the light, then it will fail. I'm not saying it's not going to be a good architecture, I'm sure it will be, but it's not going to be experienced as you would like the user to have. That's why there's no shortcut, there's no list online. You need to have someone who's going to think about it and design it properly.
Speaking-
Sorry.
Okay. Speaking from the manufacturing side, what we also offer in Osram is light level simulation, yeah, and education also on light, because it depends on how the room is looking like. What's the size of the room, the height of the room, do you use a wooden floor, carpet, what's the reflection from the wall, is it white, is it black, maybe golden, yeah? And we do a dedicated light level simulation in combination with light ceilings. Yeah? So this is what we can offer to recommend you or recommend you together with a light designer the best quality of light for your room. By the way, there is a good lighting designer sitting next to you, a very famous one. Hello, Seki.
You want to add
No,
something?
I want to say one thing. My old relative, my father and my old relative were all architects. In this time, they operated in the middle of 20th century. And they made everything. Exhibition, furniture, houses. Today is different. The technology has evolved. We need specialization. Me, I am architect, but for my house, I call an architect, a friend of me. Please make me because I am architect, but I don't know the new technology of wood, of stone, of everything, of all the material of the. If you think not a catalog of lighting fitting, of sources, a catalog of Osram, you can find about more than 10,000 sources.
Really?
Yes. You don't know, but it is that. So to know all the sources, that we have at disposition is very hard. We can be like God and knows everything. So luckily I work with a lot of architects, and I learn, I give, and I learn, and this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Should we take one or close? Last one. Because that was this gentleman. Last one, sorry.
Thank you for your time, and I would like to ask a question about, it's been decades that we are experiencing the yellow light as the main light in our houses and everywhere, and after some centuries even, I don't know the exact date of producing the light bulbs, but it's been 2 decades and 20 years that we are facing these white bulbs in our houses and in our neighborhood. And now we are coming up with the researchers showing that this is not a good way to lighting the houses, especially in the night with the white bulbs. And now you are, as you are from Ostrom company, which is one of the oldest producers of light bulbs. And now you're talking about the different colors and more personal lighting. And I would like to know, are you bringing us a rainbow board now? You're gonna make it more colorful? Because to me, this light, this white lights was a disaster to the architecture and lighting. And I was curious that, are you bringing us more and more colors and then making some researchers and seeing the effect, or this is...
Is this a trick or game of selling more products? Of course it is. She answered and I had the comment. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, well, as you said, Piero, we have a wide range of products. Yeah? So I would say if you want to have the whole combination of everything, you need a light source which has RGB and white, with a white chip on top to get a really good white, yeah, or yeah, to switch the color the white color temperatures. Yeah, depends.
Well, let's put it this way. Manufacturers are there to give you options.
Yeah.
You are there to choose what suits you best. Of course, the fact that there's LEDs in our life and there's RGBs, all the cities and places becomes colorful, but that's not the fault of the manufacturer, but the user. Users should be able to tell if they need colors in an area or not. So if you go back to what you would like to have as a color temperature during night, of course, yellowish, let's say warm light, warm white light, is more close to what we have experienced for centuries, not only because of the halogen and Accor filament lamp, but also because for thousands of years, we were gathered around the fire. That was how we socialized. It's not only 120 years that we are used to warm light during night. It's because how we were socialized around the fire was also an effect why you would like warm light rather than cold white light.
And also it depends on the region. For example, we started with 3000 Kelvin, so warm white, I would say. Yeah. I went to Middle East. Yeah, they told me 3000 Kelvin is too cold. I said, what do you need? 2700 Kelvin. Okay, we had a new range with 2700 Kelvin. Slightly different. Now you go to the Middle East. You ask them what color temperature you like to have. 2200. Yeah.
Oh,
I said,
okay.
what kind of color is it? Champagne. They name it champagne or amber. If you show somebody in the rest of Europe this color temperature, they would say, this is orange. This is not anymore warm white. So
in Far East, 4000 Kelvin is too warm.
yeah.
You went in China, in Japan, 4000 Kelvin is very warm. They want 5000 Kelvin. I don't know why. No, maybe. They're a little yellow and they won't be more white, maybe.
Yeah.
There's a cultural aspect also.
Yeah.
For example, in the Far East, they like more colors, in their culture. But in our culture, we would call it like different names that I don't want to say. But it's really about culture. Let's finalize this discussion saying that there's no one recipe to apply anything. Please try to get a specialist on the project. Even if you cannot afford it, try to think about light. That is also one step further than accepting what is out there. And everything is human-centric anyway, so let's design places where people will feel better and better. Thank you very much for the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.